when the fire is under your ass or something's going on, and it just forces you to get to that next level. If you're home and you're exercising and you're on a treadmill, you're probably not going to ever run as fast as you would if you had a bunch of people watching you, or like an animal chasing you. You know, like there's a bunch of scenarios where you're gonna put out so much more effort if there's just a stimulus.
Hi, it's Kelly and Ryan from AMS, and we are here at the Mohegan Sun Arena, about to go talk to Nick Champeau of Rascal Flatts. We talked about all things banjo, guitar, and the importance of being on time. So we are here in the arena at Mohegan Sun with none other than Nick Champeau. Hi, Nick.
Hey, how's it going?
Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you.
So you're on tour with Rascal Flatts right now for the Life is a Highway tour, correct?
That's right.
And I'm curious, how did you initially first get connected with Rascal Flatts?
I got connected to Rascal Flatts through essentially through social media. So I was working in another band, and the drummer in that band got me connected with Jim Riley, who's the drummer for Rascal Flatts. And initially I was just playing with Gary LaVox, the lead singer, while Rascal Flatts were on their hiatus. And then when this tour became a thing and they were putting together personnel, I was, considered for the band and got the position. So it's more or less how it worked. It was just word of mouth, social media, and just kind of meeting people, making connections through that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How have the audiences been so far on tour? I know it's the 25-year anniversary.
I mean, it's been incredible. It's just sold out every night. It's just packed room full of people. Everybody knows every song, just so fully engaged in the show. It's incredible,
So did you have to go back and sort of learn all of the repertoire that they've been learning throughout these 25 years?
I mean, when I first started playing with Gary, I learned the majority of the material that we're playing right now. But the difference is that I'm playing different instruments, and of course the arrangements of the songs in this band in particular changed dramatically over the 25 years that they've been performing. Yeah. More or less just to keep the band, I really believe that it adds to the show, but it's also to keep the band engaged and entertained by the music, because it's always changing. So I learned a whole version of the songs with Gary, which is a little bit more, I don't know how to describe, more band-centric, because it's just Gary singing the whole night. So the band takes extended solo sections, like Andy Wood is in this band. So there's amazing. Lots of guitar solos, yeah. Sure. And just extended outros and things like that. And of course, in this show, it's more about the songs and playing them a little bit closer to the album version. So the arrangements are just totally different too.
And how many pieces are on the stage at any given? How many bodies?
We have the three main guys, and then in this band we have myself, and then Jim on drums, and then we've got Will Houchins on keys and Devin Malone on auxiliary as well.
So I would imagine, like in between songs, like if you're playing guitar versus banjo or something like that, there's got to be those quick changes.
Oh yeah, that's extremely important. Yeah, the timing on all of that is huge.
Because we were talking about that. I'm a guitar player. Kelly plays a lot of instruments, but I would imagine having to go from the headspace of being a banjo player into a guitar player, it's almost two different languages. Do you have to think twice about it, or does it just become second nature at this point?
I still try to take a little moment in between, because it's just the mechanics, especially with the right hand, are so different. Yeah. And it's easy to want to exert more energy or just try harder in certain situations where you're kind of just jumping in, and usually that means more muscular tension, which means you're not going to play as well. So it's good to maybe take a minute in between each, if you have a second, just to kind of let everything go and kind of start new, Yeah.
That makes sense.
Sonically, do you feel like you're looking to add different types of elements when you're playing banjo versus guitar?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a totally different role most of the time. For electric guitar, I'm really just supporting Joe Don, so it's either playing, rhythm fingers under lead lines, or playing parts that are very ornamental and that just complement everything else that's going on. So I'm kind of just in this supportive role, whereas banjo, there's a song, one particular Rascal Flatts song called Banjo, where it's just it's the lead instrument the whole way through, you know? So yeah, those roles are pretty different.
Did you start with banjo or guitar?
I started with guitar.
Okay.
So my background is pretty much all guitar up until like 2012. And I was just I'd moved from Los Angeles. I went to USC for grad school, moved back to Minnesota for personal reasons, and ended up just trying to find work. So being an auxiliary musician can afford you a lot of work, especially if you're new to a town. You just play, you know, a bunch of different instruments and have a good rig for all of that that sounds good. You can start getting work almost immediately, whereas if you're a guitar player and you're in a town with plenty of bands, but, you know, there's only so many chairs. So you have to wait till somebody gets fired or gets upset and quits or something, and sometimes that takes forever, you know? So I started doing that, and my background in fingerstyle guitar playing specifically made it much easier to get into banjo and dobro. Those are the square neck, resonator, and banjo, and a little bit of steel. I play those instruments.
That's great. I mean, to think that you could have a gig at any given night knowing that someone needs to fill. I mean, you probably get calls the day before, can you fill in tonight and play banjo just for this song or guitar for another. So being a jack of all trades must have paid off pretty well.
Yeah, it definitely helped move things along, for sure.
Yeah.
And now at this point, it's like the reason I have this gig is really specifically because it's guitar playing plus, you know, extensive banjo chops.
I would think a lot of what you do too is it's not what you're doing on stage half the time. It's about showing up on time, being prepared, being a good guy, knowing your role. I mean, I think that that's something that a lot of people who might watch this interview might go, okay, how does someone such as yourself get into these gigs? And then how do you keep going? So with each successive gig, you hope the positive word of mouth will trail off and so you can do something else, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So being a team player is a huge part of it.
Yeah, just showing up on time, being easy to work with, being receptive to criticism. Like, you know, you're in a role where somebody's essentially going to just tell you what to do, and it can be really hard for musicians to just listen and take in this information, and maybe even you don't agree with it, but if it's the person who's hiring you, you just have to make that decision. Either you're going to go with that and work with that, or you do have the freedom to just respectfully walk away, but of course that's just part of the job. So you have to learn to just take criticism and instruction and work with that, you know. I think a lot of people, for some reason, you know, it can be taken personally very easily.
Yeah, like an ego thing.
Yeah, you got to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah, because that's how you actually grow.
Absolutely. That's one of the things about being in Nashville specifically too is like you learn and become the player you want to be by doing the thing. You know, you can't sit in your room or hide from the world and prepare until the right moment and then show up. I guess some people have done that, but I think for me personally at least, it's like the real education and experience of becoming the player you want to be comes from getting out there and dodoing it, you know, which means you've got to be personable and have social intelligence and, like you said, show up on time and have an attitude that people want to be around. You know, cultivate like an internal kind of just self that is at least pleasant enough to be around the people who don't just start like see that you're going to be there and just start like, oh no.
Well, it's just funny because, you know, you grow up thinking like, in terms of like the rock and roll guitar slinger, it's like, be late, be a drunk, you know, and to tell everyone what to do. And you're the opposite. You're saying, look, I'm having fun, but I'm being a professional about it. And knowing, like you said, if someone says, look, no, don't play it move the G chord to here or whatever, it's your song, I'm here to serve.
Oh, absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah. So Jim, I don't know what movie it is, but there's a quote that gets thrown around, you know, a little bit, and it's, the dots are where I say they are, you know, and that's like just such a perfect thing because it's like maybe you're right, but it still kind of doesn't matter. It's not about being right in that moment. So it's about just going with the flow and doing what somebody's asking you to do, you know.
That could be tough.
Yeah,
it can be, but like the more comfortable you get with it, the more you're just able to it's like pervasive in your life, you know, because things will just show up, and if you can kind of just go with it, great. If you're butting up against it all the time, that's a lot of energy to expend. You know? So
yeah, it's a muscle you flex.
Yeah, it can tire you out. So
do you feel like taking that criticism throughout the tour makes you a better player by the end?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's why it's like it's like instruction, and you're there to like kind of take in what all the things these other people know, and hopefully you respect their opinion and appreciate all the things that they've done, because they're giving you, kind of showing you what their preferences are and what they're looking for in this particular instance. And hopefully you want to know what all that is, because, like for me personally, it's like, this is my first arena tour at this level, and I'm surrounded by guys who have more years of experience than I do. So I'm like sitting in a treasure trove of information and experience that I can just gather all of this, and it's like just nuggets of gold everywhere.
Sure, yeah. Tons
Yeah,
of
but it's
opportunity to
being
learn.
tuned in enough too, knowing, okay, I'm going to be quiet here and watch what these guys do. And eventually you're going to be that guy too.
Yeah.
And I would imagine there's probably some nightmare scenarios where maybe you're playing, the artists themselves are great, but the musical director could be a real hard ass or something too. And you just have to know, okay, look, am I going to hang on here? Am I going to stay with this tour? And if so, where's the line before you start to smash things and you go, this is too abusive.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, here, this is like all super easy, like I went to, like I said, I went to music school, and I felt like that was rough. That set me up very well to, because it's like, the term criticism almost has like a negative connotation to it, but I think of it as just like, it's just instruction. That's all you're getting. And it's going to be different from person to person, because music just is that way.
Right.
And, in those environments, they're essentially there to provide as much criticism as possible, and even do it when maybe it's not even warranted. And you get these environments where you're like, have a panel of people in front of you there just to judge your playing, and so when you've gone through those experiences, things like auditions in the real world and those kinds of performance situations where your playing is getting scrutinized, it makes it a lot easier to handle. You already get a couple of those experiences under your belt. So
Do you feel like in those types of settings, sometimes it can make you like overly analytical of your own playing?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think, why you kind of have to just also find some time, hopefully, to just play and enjoy it. Like, you can get too far, in one end of the spectrum where you're just always analyzing your playing and scrutinizing and listening back to yourself playing and thinking it sucks, and then you got to fix it. And that's good. You will get better doing that. There's honestly nothing wrong with that in my mind. It's like, yeah, you should get a little anxious about your playing and like overanalyze and scrutinize all that stuff. I think that's great to do. Just don't do it for too long.
Right.
Don't let that become your whole personality for the rest of your life. Like, periods of time of that are great, because you'll just grow so quickly. And like, that's when the fire is under your ass or something's going on, and it just forces you to get to that next level. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, where it's like, you just have to go out and do it rather than stay home and prepare too much. Because it's like, for some reason, I imagine it's similar to like, if you're home and you're exercising and you're on a treadmill, you're probably not going to ever run as fast as you would if you had a bunch of people watching you, or like an animal chasing you. Like, there's a bunch of scenarios where you're gonna put out so much more effort if there's just a stimulus to kind of, just create that and just be a catalyst for that. So
Yeah, the
And that's
adrenaline.
those scenarios are tough where, where you want to be, you put in your 10,000 hours, you know the notes, you know the songs, you've rehearsed them inside and out. And when you get on a stage and you look around at all these people, you're thinking, it's my job to serve the song, but also step back, take a breath, and just let it happen. Where the muscle memory can kick in.
yeah.
That's got to be the best feeling. When you're in that zone, you're looking out, you're like, I get to do this for a living.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
You learn the changes and then forget the changes, and then all that's left to do is just enjoy the show.
Trust your instincts.
Yeah, it's kind of like, at that point, it's just kind of like being on a roller coaster ride where you're like, you're just on the track. You're
Here I
doing
am,
this now. You don't.
Which begs the question, any nightmare scenarios? Can you think of any things
No,
that,
well, I mean,
geez,
no,
knock
yeah,
on wood. I don't know if that's actually wood.
I
Sorry,
know,
Nick.
no, it's, so far, everything's been great, Like, there's little things with, like, technical little hiccups here and there, but I mean, overall, we haven't had anything. So,
Good.
yeah, I mean, we definitely rehearsed extensively for this tour. Like, there was a couple weeks of preparation, and then we did a one-off at one point that was kind of unexpected, but gave us an extra performance opportunity before we even got out here. But yeah, this was definitely, we definitely touched up on everything before we ever hit a stage. So that shows, because once we got on stage, you could just tell everything felt comfortable from the first performance, so.
That's going to be a great feeling.
Yeah, I mean, these guys just know what they're doing. This camp and all the stories that I've heard about it, it's always been just a high level professionalism and a certain way of doing things that is always just really precise and methodical, so.
That makes sense. I mean, you don't stay together for 25 years like they have, where people are still packing places to see them. If you don't, you have to have the goods.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of people are great in the studio, and you can see them live, and you're not sure of what's live and what isn't. It sounds to me like you're part of it's a machine, and you get on that ride, and it's like you take off. It's got to be awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like everything has to be right in order for people to really just get the full. In this case, in this show in particular, the full emotional impact of the performance. Like these songs are very emotional, and people who are here are like looking for that experience, like strong emotional experience from these songs, and like you don't think about the technical stuff, all this, everything, how the sausage is being made. No one's thinking about any of that even for a second, and it just gives them the opportunity to just like savor the experience that they're having here, like it sounds weird to say it all this way, but when you see it happening, it's like people are like,
they're moved.
Yeah.
It's it's a new experience for me to see that, like how much it touches the hearts of people, because there's like rock shows where you're just like, you're there and it's loud and people are getting in the pit. And it's like an energy fest,
Sure.
or it's just like, and it's like at a very high level. And this is a little different. This is more like, there's a lot more ballads. There's moments of like really, deep emotion. So and not that it isn't at a rock show, but this is like, we're probably like a third ballads on this, the set list, Maybe not a third, but like, you've got like all these massive hits that are like, I'm Moving On and Bless the Broken Road and like What Hurts the Most. These are like huge ballads. Yeah.
And you gotta put it out there right. People will know if you play it right.
Yeah, there's no slop.
Right.
Because it's like that. Those ballads, it's like there has to be a lot of space in these songs, and it has to be clean, and there has to be like a high amount of fidelity, because it's like all those little characteristics and nuances are presented in a ballad, whereas you lose that in a loud song.
Yeah. I think sometimes people who are like only fast music listeners or only like rock music listeners can sometimes like pigeonhole themselves into only listening to like one type of thing. How would you, like, what kind of song would you recommend to somebody to get them into the genre, like a gateway song?
Into ballads?
Yeah, or into country music, into banjo.
Oh man. I guess like country music's interesting because there's a version of country music that connects to like every other genre that you can think of. Like I got into country music. My dad listened to Alan Jackson and a lot of 60s country growing up because that's what his parents listened to. But I found that I really got into country music when I started listening to a lot of country guitar playing from like the 50s specifically, because I was in school, I was studying a lot of jazz, and I found guys like Hank Garland and Grady Martin, guys who were in the Nashville A-Team, who were doing a lot of the sessions in Nashville in the 60s, had a style of guitar playing that I was really interested in because it had a country bluegrass kind of sound to it. It was really precise and a very clean, twanging guitar tone, but it's like a 335. It's a little bit rounder, and there's a bit of a swing rhythm to it, so it felt much more like jazz. And that was kind of my in. And then from there, I just started moving through the decades and eventually got back to the 90s, which is, the Brent Mason sound. And so I always find you just kind of find a conduit through it, like connects to what you already like, and move from there. I think that's true for both. Like if you were, ballads, ballads are just worth checking out if you're interested in music in general, especially playing music and getting to the highest level of performance that you can get to, because it's just literally the opposite of like a fast, loud number. Like I said before, it's like space and phrasing and your time, and your tone are going to be just, all these things are going to be so naked in a
you
ballad.
can't hide,
Yeah, and so and everything you play has to have some intentionality behind it, because you can't just rattle off a bunch of notes, because now you've just filled all this room and you've taken the dynamic level from here to here, and here's your ceiling. So now like now what do you do? You know, so it's like you have to really be thoughtful about how you approach a ballad. Whereas, you know, with a fast number, you can just, when in doubt, just shred, you know, and you can get the job
Land
done
on your
with
feet.
that. Yeah, you can get through the song and not embarrass yourself. With a ballad, it's like there's no way out. You have to make a good choice. Otherwise, you will kind of, you know,
It's exposed.
Yeah, it'll be a lackluster experience for everybody involved. So you have to work out all these details that you can kind of just skim over in other settings.
Yeah, and there's nuance to starting somewhere so that you have somewhere to go.
Yeah, so like going back to jazz, it's like Miles Davis, Kind of Blue. It's like if you were looking for a way to get into ballads, I guess, I would go for Kind of Blue because for some reason that album is full of amazing ballads, but in my mind, more accessible than a lot of other places you could go, you know, similar albums in that genre, where it's like Miles Davis, never any notes that are unnecessary. His entrances at certain points in the song and his phrasing is just amazing. It's really hard to beat.
It is. It's so spare and sparse in ways, and you think, well, I could do that, and then you try, you're like, I can't do that.
Yeah, no.
But, you know, and Miles Davis is a great example, and even talking country, you know, we always talk about, like, in the 70s, there was this era of jazz fusion music, which still exists. But if you think about it, in this country music is probably some of the first fusion you can think of. There are elements of jazz, blues, swing, bluegrass, rock.
Yeah.
And you could all still be a country guitar player. You look at a guy like Danny Gatton or Grady Martin, and they were taking elements of jazz and country, and half the time, Brent Mason, another great example.
Yeah.
Just how you could pull from all these disparate genres, it's still country, but you could pull in elements of everything else. That's a wide palette to work with.
It is, and it's funny because, you know, on the other end of the spectrum now with modern country, I was talking to Devin about this, and saying, I don't know, it was just some off-the-cuff comment about, you know, it's only a matter of time until there's 7-string guitars in country music. And he's like, there already are.
Country
It's
gent.
already been going on for years. Yeah. So it's like, if you're a metal guy, it's like finding your way into country is probably the easiest it's ever been right now.
Well, they're both steeped in so much guitar. Guitar really does exist because of metal, rock, and country.
Absolutely.
And thank God for that. I mean, whatever keeps people playing.
I know, the guitar is represented in just about every genre. I can't think of one genre. I mean, maybe it has more of a peripheral role, but it's still there.
Well, everyone keeps saying guitar is dead. I love that because every time they do,
That's crazy.
we sell more guitars. So
That's the thing is I feel like guitar as a fixture in our culture is as big as it's ever been. And maybe, I mean, you still see it in pop music. I just listened, so a friend of mine turned me on to the new Lady Gaga album, and I don't really know her music super well, but the person I was talking to, I like respect her taste in music, so I was like, I'll check it out. And I was like, wow, this is like a rock album. I can't believe how much guitar there is on this. And like, then I saw an SNL performance of her, and it's like she's straight up like a 60s rock frontman. Like there's psychedelia, and like she's getting on the ground. She's doing this like James Brown thing for a second at the end, and I'm like, you know, the tools that we have from the 20th century to make a great show still work. There's still all the same components, and they haven't really been trumped yet. I mean, you think about people like Lady Gaga or Bruno Mars, who I feel like is an amalgamation of just all these, all the best performers of the latter half of the 20th century, you know? And he's just put all that together to create his own thing. And it's like, you can keep going and try new things, but it's still the most exciting thing to see is an amazing front person and a great like show with actual musicians, at least in my mind. You know?
No, I think you're absolutely right, man. There's something to that.
Yeah, because guitar is so ubiquitous in our culture, I feel like there's been a lot of innovation in the guitar world throughout the years, but I don't feel like that same innovation applies to the banjo world. Do you feel like there's been much change in the world of banjos?
I mean, kind of. It's weird because the 5-string banjo, the instrument that I play, is it has its niche, but to be in this setting and the way that it's played in this band is unique. You know, the guitar, I don't know, maybe you have to like think of certain instruments, like the pedal steel and the banjo is like, they're actually pretty new and cutting edge if you think about it, because like, my great-grandfather was a banjo player, but he played a different kind of banjo, and that was only back in the 40s. So we're talking like technically a different instrument, but it's still a banjo. So you've got like tenor banjos, you got the 5-string banjo, you've got a ganjo, which is a 6-string, and that's really, popular with guys like Keith Urban, and then you've just got all the other versions of these instruments, not just like the instrument itself, but ways of playing it that are totally different. So it's kind of a weird instrument in that it's just got its own little factions and schools, and they don't really touch a whole lot. Like if you're a Scruggs, like I specifically studied the Earl Scruggs style of banjo playing, which is thumb, index, and middle finger, and then there's other styles like claw hammer, and that's a totally different approach. It's almost like, it's just like two different instruments. If you can do one, it doesn't mean you're going to be able to play a song that requires the other. You know what I mean? So I went with the Scruggs style because I knew that was represented pretty well in what was going on in country music. There was ganjo playing, but I could cover a ganjo part with a 5-string easier than I could vice versa. And also I had enough right hand finger picking chops to make it happen. But and then what's really interesting too is that the guy that I'm covering for, essentially, Travis Toy, who is the pedal steel player and banjo player, multi-instrumentalist in Rascal Flatts, before myself and Devin showed up, he's a great pedal steel player. So you get an Earl Scruggs style, but there's some stuff in his writing and playing that influenced the songs that we're playing that aren't really techniques that are specific to Earl Scruggs. So now we're getting we've got this technique, but we're moving beyond that just because this particular song needs to be more of a rock tune. And so one of the things that you do not do with a banjo is play the same notes on the same string. You try to avoid that as much as possible, because with those metal picks, it's much easier to use adjacent strings, which is part of the reason why those Cascade guitar licks from Chet Atkins exist. That's influenced by the banjo. And it just the way it rolls and the way you can get the speed and clarity of each individual note is so much better on adjacent strings. But Travis is a steel player and is not afraid to try different things, and has started to throw little licks where you're going to do that. You're going to break the rules. So, from that standpoint, it's like there's like really strict rules, but then you get to a guy that,
They can get away with it a little bit more.
Yes, very, there you got the kind of the pioneers still just being like, for this, we're going to move beyond this because the song kind of requires it. It's a very rockin' song. So there's plenty of licks they're completely ripped off from guitar players, but played on a banjo in a banjo manner too. So it's a cool piece of music. So that's, as far as the instrument, that's pretty much it. Then the other piece of this is the pickup systems for a banjo, because amplifying a banjo is really difficult. So what you got to do is just stuff it full of socks or t-shirts, or towels or something, just to minimize the vibration of the head of the banjo. And then I found that I think it's the Fishman Rare Earth pickup. That is the best one. I've tried a couple of different ones, but that was the one that Travis was using when he was with Rascal Flatts, and I just figured, it's like, if that's what they're familiar with and that was working great, we're not going to change anything.
I mean, really, if you think about pickups, if Fishman doesn't make it, nobody does. I mean, they make everything.
Yeah, there was a different pickup that I was using that was like a humbucking pickup, and that sounded like a great idea because it removed all extraneous noise from the situation. Very desirable, but I just found that the Rare Earth, the Rare Earth just sounds much more like a banjo. The other one, that humbucker, I know there's got to be a way to make it sound good, but I found with the Fishman was just easy. It was not like I didn't have to do much to alter the sound to get what I was looking for.
There it is.
Pretty much. Yeah. I just plugged it into a good preamp, and I was just like, done. That's all it took. So,
is there any one piece of gear that saves your butt every night, regardless of guitar, banjo, anything you want to give a shout out to?
Oh yeah, totally. The Eventide H90,
great piece of gear.
Yeah, like I've been, I have this board that I've got set up right now, and I'm very happy with it. But I've been using a Friedman BE100.
Great amp.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And previous to this gig, I've been using amps more or less as like a clean, or getting a bunch of clean headroom and just using it just for that purpose. So I'll use all of my overdrives and gain staging will be from a board, and the amp will be clean. And in this situation, I've been using the BE100, which I've got an overdrive channel and like a solo channel. And I find with just the overdrive channel and a volume pedal, I have all the overdrive tones I need. So other than that, I could just take an H90 and put it in the effects loop, and I'm pretty much good to go. Yeah. Oh my God. At the H90, there's like, if you can't do it with that pedal, like, I don't know.
It can't be done.
Yeah, it's essentially, yeah. It's like, it just covers everything. So it's just nice I can't not have something like that on every board now, because it sets you up so that if somebody asks for like, they want you to play a synth part randomly in the middle of one song, it's like, even that, I can even do that.
That's why they call it Eventide.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us, Nick. This has been great. Break a leg tonight.
Hey, thank you so much. Glad
Not
to be here.
really, though.
No, you
Oh,
don't.
not literally.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thanks,
thank
man.
you.
My area up on stage is right here, right? Just on the drums. And then the guitar world is over on the other side of the stage. Good things going on right now. Just look at guitar tech, Sammy Bones, doing the work of 5 men. Grab it. You want to give him all in one day? Yeah, I got a microphone right now.
Impressive. I like it.
How you doing? How's the day going?
Best day ever.
Hell yeah. Just got a couple goodies back here. This is one of the guitars I use. It's a Murphy Lab 335. Yeah, it's very nice. Love that guy. That's my standard tuning guitar. And then the half step down is a Les Paul that's not here right now. But then we also got the D28. This is the new Martin, like the standard D28 model. It's fantastic. Yeah, man. Yeah, I love this thing. And then, of course, yeah, we got the banjo here too. This is a pretty new Deering Sierra, and I love this thing. This thing's great. Yep.
Is it heavy?
Yeah, it's like probably 15 pounds.
Oh my god.
Oh, the secret sauce for any banjo: compensated saddle. Total game changer, let me tell you. As you could definitely protect yourself with that thing. What else we got here? Oh, here we go. This is just another one of the guitars you use on there. This is another Murphy Lab, but this is a 59 R9. It's a good guy. All right, should we want to pop up here for a second? All right, we're just gonna pop over by let's go back behind here. It's the illustrious Devin Malone. Hey, Devin, say hi to the people.
Hello, people.
Got Will Houchins. Hey, Will. Look, I got a microphone, Will.
Oh, nice.
Say something to the people, Will.
Hi.
There you have it. So this is my universe. We got the spot up here. Here's the BE100. It's got a Marshall 412 cab with the G1265s in it. Yeah, it's a monster. Oh, here's a really wonderful thing to have when you've got a 100-watt amplifier is an aux box, because it just allows me to just make sure I've got the pretty much consistent guitar tone every show. And then if for whatever reason I need to just take down the speaker volume, I can do that without affecting anything else in the signal chain.
Do that in real time, like if you're.
Exactly. I can literally just take out all the volume on stage and nothing else, like front of house, nothing else will be affected. It's killer. So look at this. So this is the electric board. It's got everything on it. Yeah. But to be totally honest, as I've gone through this tour, these pedals are all fantastic, but I find myself really just using these guys and the volume pedal to get multiple overdrive tones on that overdrive channel. Sometimes I'll hit the clean channel and use these guys just to dirty it up a little bit, and then this is the acoustic board right here. I've just got a Grace Design preamp, and then there's a compressor for each one of those guys. Yeah, so that's pretty much the rig. It's quite a beefy electric rig, and we got all the things we need for the acoustic guitar and banjo, and pretty happy with everything so far.
So obviously we want to give a great shout out to our friend Nick for taking the time to sit down and talk to us about Rascal Flatts, the entire tour, and his rig, of course. To check out the gear that we talked about with Nick and all the other gear that we carry, be sure to check us out at AmericanMusical.com. So you're based out of Nashville now? Or?
Yeah, I've been in Nashville about 7 years. But
I guess that you have to be, right?
Yeah, it's definitely. But I'm originally from Minneapolis.
Oh, okay.